You're standing on the first tee, brand new sleeve of golf balls in your pocket, and you already know what's coming. That slice into the trees, that drive that dies 40 yards short of where your buddy's ball landed. And you've quietly wondered if the ball itself is part of the problem. Here's what I found out after buying and hitting more than a dozen different golf balls with my own money last season. The ball you play matters far more for a high handicapper than for a scratch player, and almost everybody has it backwards. I was paying too much for the wrong ball for years, and the day I figured that out, my scores dropped and my slice straightened out without a single lesson. Nobody at the pro shop ever explained this to me. It got buried under shiny marketing and $50 boxes aimed at players who swing 110 miles an hour. Stick with me, because near the end I'm going to share the one adjustment I found in an old ball testing bulletin that changed how I pick a ball forever, and it costs nothing to try this weekend. And this works for your game right now, with the exact swing you have today, not some dream swing you don't own yet. Let me take you back to the moment this whole thing started for me. I was standing on the 9th hole at a little muni course outside of town, watching my second brand new premium ball of the day disappear into a pond. $48 a dozen. 2 of them gone in one afternoon. And it hit me right there, leaning on my driver, that I had no idea what I was actually paying for. I'd bought those balls because a commercial told me the pros played them. I am not a pro. Not even close. And that little pond just ate my money to prove it, so I decided to run an experiment, a real one. I bought sleeves of every ball I could find that people claimed was good for a slower swing and a higher handicap, and I hit them all on the same range, the same course, the same wind, over several weeks. I tracked distance. I tracked how many I lost. I tracked how the ball felt off the putter and how forgiving it was when I didn't catch it clean, which for me is most of the time. What I learned flipped everything I believed about golf balls upside down, and by the end of this, you're going to walk into that pro shop and never overpay again. Let me start with what almost nobody tells you, because it explains why the expensive ball was actively hurting my game. There's a number printed on almost nothing anymore, and it's the single most important number for a player like me and you. It's called compression. Compression is basically how much the ball squishes when you hit it. A high compression ball is firm, and it only springs back to full power if you swing hard enough to squash it. If you don't have the swing speed to compress it, that firm ball just sits there stiff and dead, robbing you of distance and feel. The story behind this goes back further than you'd think. The modern rubber cord ball was invented in 1898 by a man named Coburn Haskell, working with a Goodrich engineer in Ohio. Before that, golfers played a solid ball called the gutta percha, made from dried tree sap, and it flew terribly for the average man. Haskell's wound rubber core changed everything because it let the ball store energy and give it back. Then in 1905, an English engineer named William Taylor patented the dimple pattern we still use today after proving that dimples cut drag and kept the ball in the air longer. Every ball you'll ever touch owes its flight to those 2 discoveries. But here's what got lost. For most of the 20th century, ball makers offered soft, low-compression balls specifically for average players, and everybody understood that a slower swing needed a softer ball. Then the marketing machine got hold of the sport. Somewhere in the last 30 years, the whole industry started selling us on the idea that we should all play the same firm, expensive, tour-level ball the professionals play, as if buying their equipment would buy us their swing. It doesn't. It never did. So my first test was to take the firmest, most expensive tour ball and hit it against the softest, cheapest ball I could find, back to back, 20 shots each with my driver. I have a swing speed somewhere around 85 miles an hour on a good day, which is right where most higher handicappers live, and the result honestly made me a little angry. The soft, cheap ball flew farther, not by a little. On average, I was carrying it about 8 to 12 yards longer, and it went straighter too, because a softer ball spins less sideways when you catch it off center. I had been paying double the money to lose distance and accuracy. Let that sink in, because it's about to get worse before it gets better. Now let me count these down for you, starting with the 5th best ball I tested, because even my number 5 Beat that premium ball into the dirt for a player like me. Number 5 on my list is a ball built around one idea, and that idea is straightness. When I put it in play, the first thing I noticed was that my usual banana slice turned into a gentle fade I could actually aim. The reason is the cover and the low spin core. This ball is engineered with a firmer mantle layer under a soft cover, and that combination is designed to cut the side spin that turns a small miss into a lost ball. For a high handicapper, side spin is the enemy. It's the difference between the light rough and the neighbor's backyard. The compression on this one sits in the low 50s, which is soft enough for a moderate swing to compress, but firm enough to feel stable in the wind. I paid right around $25 for a dozen, which is about half of what that tour ball cost me. Over 3 rounds, I lost only 2 of them, compared to 5 or 6 of the pricey balls in the same stretch. That's real money. If you're losing 4 premium balls a round at $4 a ball, and you play once a week, that's over $800 a year just feeding the trees and ponds. What made me trust this ball was watching my miss hits. When I caught one thin, low on the face, it still got up and flew instead of screaming along the ground. That's forgiveness you can feel. But there was a trade-off, and it pushed me straight into my number 4, because this straight flying ball gave up something around the greens that I wasn't willing to lose. Therefore, I went looking for a ball that kept the distance but gave me a little more life on my short shots, and that brings me to number 4. This is a ball with a slightly softer cover made from a material called ionomer, which is a fancy word for a durable, springy plastic skin that grips the grooves of your wedge just enough to help the ball stop. The old premium balls use a cover called urethane, which grips beautifully but wears out fast and costs a fortune. What surprised me is how close this cheaper cover got to that feel on chips and pitches inside 40 yards. The history here is worth knowing, because urethane covers only became common on affordable balls very recently. For decades, if you wanted a ball that checked up on the green, you paid tour prices for a soft-covered ball that scuffed if you looked at it wrong. My father played a balata-covered ball in the 1970s that would cut in half if you sculled it against a cart path. Those balls were soft and spun like crazy, but they were fragile and expensive, and a player like me would destroy 3 in a round. The modern Surlyn and ionomer covers gave average players durability, and now the newest ones are finally adding back the greenside grip we lost. I tested this number 4 ball on a chipping green with a bucket set 8 feet from the fringe. With the tour ball, I got maybe 3 of 10 to stop near the bucket. With this one, I got 7 of 10 to check up and settle. That's the kind of number that lowers your score without changing your swing. The compression runs a touch higher here in the low 60s, so if your swing is very slow, you'll want to keep that in mind. It rewards a swing speed around 85 to 95 miles an hour. Mine was right on the edge and it worked beautifully. But I noticed something on the cold mornings that sent me hunting again. When the temperature dropped below about 50 degrees, that firmer core felt like a rock and my distance fell off a cliff. And that led me straight to number 3, which solved the problem I didn't even know I had. Number 3 is the softest ball I tested, and it taught me the biggest lesson of the whole experiment. This ball has a compression down in the mid to high 30s, which is about as soft as a legal golf ball gets. When I first squeezed the packaging, I honestly thought it would be a marshmallow that went nowhere. I was wrong, and being wrong is exactly why I trust it now. Here's the science that the ball companies quietly stopped explaining. Golf ball performance is deeply tied to temperature and swing speed together, not just one or the other. A firm ball needs both heat and clubhead speed to come alive. A soft, low-compression ball compresses fully even on a cold morning with a moderate swing, which means it holds its distance when the firm ball goes dead. Research on ball behavior going back decades shows that for every 10 degrees the temperature drops, a golf ball can lose a couple of yards of carry, and that loss hits firm balls far harder than soft ones. I ran the cold test on a 40-degree morning in early spring, dew still on the grass, hands half frozen. The soft ball carried within a few yards of its warm weather number. The firm premium ball lost close to 15 yards and felt like I was hitting a stone. My hands actually hurt less too, because the soft ball doesn't send that harsh vibration up the shaft on a mishit. For older players especially, and I'm not getting any younger, that softer feel is easier on the joints and easier on the confidence. This ball cost me about $22 a dozen, 22, and it outperformed the $48 ball in every category that matters to my game except one, which is spin on full wedge shots into the green. It flew a little too hot and released a little too far on those approach shots. For a lot of high handicappers, that actually doesn't matter because we're just trying to hit the green at all. But I wanted more because by now I could feel I was closing in on the real answer. That feeling of taking back a decision somebody else had been making for you is worth more than any single round of golf. And if you want to go deeper into that kind of reclaimed knowledge, I put a lot of it into one place. I wrote a series of books called First Wins, Sharp Habits, and The Full System, and they're built around the same idea you're watching right now, that the practical knowledge we actually need got quietly buried, and we deserve to have it back. If any of that sounds like the way you already think, check the description below for details. Now let's keep climbing, because number 2 is where distance and forgiveness finally shook hands. This ball is a two-piece design with a large reactive core and a thin, tough cover, and it is built for one job above all others, giving a slower swing, maximum ball speed off the driver. When I striped one, it jumped off the face in a way the others didn't. Over a full session on a launch monitor at my local range, this ball posted my highest ball speed and my longest average carry of everything I tested, and it did it while staying remarkably straight. The reason comes down to how the core is engineered. A big soft core with a low spin cover is the classic recipe for a distance ball, and it dates back to the design revolution of the late 1990s and early 2000s, when solid core two-piece balls finally overtook the old wound balls for everyday players. Those wound balls I mentioned earlier, the ones with rubber thread wrapped around a center, spun too much for the average player and turned every mistake into a bigger mistake. The solid two-piece core cut that spun down and handed distance and forgiveness to millions of weekend golfers almost overnight. This number 2 ball is the modern peak of that idea. Let me give you the numbers that made me a believer. On the launch monitor, my driver ball speed with the tour ball averaged around 122 miles an hour. With this number 2 ball, it climbed to about 126. That 4-mile-an-hour gain translated to roughly 10 extra yards of carry, and because the ball spun less, my dispersion, meaning how spread out my shots were left and right, tightened up by nearly a third. 10 more yards and straighter from a ball that cost me $24 a dozen. I stood there looking at that screen thinking about all the years and all the money I'd wasted. Now I know exactly what some of you are thinking, because I thought it too. You're thinking this only works if you can already make decent contact, or if you have time to go test balls on a launch monitor, or if you play often enough for it to matter. Maybe you play a few times a month. Maybe your swing is inconsistent and you top half your drives. Maybe you're just getting back into the game after years away, or picking it up late in life. I want to talk straight to you for a minute, because this is where it matters most. Here is the truth. The worse and less consistent your contact is, the more the right ball helps you, not less. A better player can overpower a bad ball choice with skill. You and I can't. And that's exactly why the ball does more of the work for us. You do not need a launch monitor. You do not need lessons. You need to do one simple thing this week, and you can do it with balls you already own or can buy for pocket change. Go find any low compression ball, one of the soft ones I described, and buy a single sleeve of 3. Then grab 3 of whatever firm ball is rattling around in your bag right now. Go to any open field, a park, even a big backyard, or the range if you have one, and hit them side by side. Don't measure anything fancy, just watch. Watch which one flies farther. Watch which one curves less when you don't catch it clean. Watch which one feels softer when you mishit it. Your own eyes will tell you the truth in 15 minutes, and it won't cost you more than the price of a sandwich. That single test is what unlocked everything for me, and you can run it before your next round. And here's the part that pulls the doubting player all the way back in. If you top the ball, If you hit it thin, if you catch it off the toe or the heel, a soft, low-spin ball is far more likely to still find the fairway than a firm, spinny one. The forgiveness isn't a bonus for good players. It's a lifeline for the rest of us. So don't sit there thinking your swing isn't good enough to benefit. Your swing is exactly the swing this was made for. That brings me to number one, the ball that won my entire experiment, and I'll be honest with you about why it won. It didn't have the absolute longest carry. It didn't have the softest feel. What it had was the best balance of everything a high handicapper actually needs in a single ball, and it did it at a price that made me laugh out loud. Number one is a soft, low compression ball with a compression in the low 40s, wrapped in a cover, engineered for both distance and a surprising amount of greenside grip. It's the ball that stopped forcing me to choose. With the others, I always gave something up. This one gave me long, straight drives off the tee because of the low spin and soft core, and it still checked up decently on my chips because of the improved cover. It flew well in the cold. It felt soft off the putter, which matters more than people admit, because a ball that feels good on the greens gives you confidence over 3-foot putts, and confidence is half of putting. The numbers told the story clearly. Across 4 full rounds, this was the ball I lost the fewest of, just 3 total, because it kept finding the short grass. My driving carry was within a couple of yards of my longest ball. My greens hit in regulation went up compared to the tour ball from an average of about 4 a round to about 7. And here's the kicker. I paid $19 and change for a dozen. $19 against 48. That's the ball that beat everything for my game. And it cost less than half of what I used to hand over without thinking. But finding my number one ball wasn't actually the biggest discovery of this whole experiment. Because while I was digging through old material trying to understand why compression stopped being printed on boxes, I stumbled onto something that changed how I choose a ball forever, and it's the thing I promised you at the start. I found it in an old ball-fitting bulletin, the kind of dry, technical document that ball engineers and club fitters used decades ago before all of this got dumbed down for television commercials. The idea in there was so simple that I couldn't believe no one had ever told me. It's a home test to match a ball's compression to your own swing, and you can do it this weekend with nothing but your thumb and a putting green. Here it is. Take the ball you're thinking of playing and press it as hard as you can between your thumb and a hard tabletop, or squeeze it hard between 2 thumbs. A true low compression ball, the kind a moderate or slow swing needs, will give just slightly under real pressure. A firm, high compression tour ball will feel like pressing on a marble and won't budge at all. That old bulletin taught fitters to use feel as a first screen, and the principle behind it is dead accurate. If you can't dent a ball's feel with your hands, your slower swing can't compress it on the course either, which means you're leaving distance in the bag on every single shot. Then it went one step further, and this is the part that genuinely changed my game. The bulletin described what it called the drop and listen test. You take 2 different balls and drop them from the same height, about shoulder high, onto a hard concrete floor, and you listen and watch. The firmer, higher compression ball will bounce noticeably higher and make a higher, sharper click. The softer, low compression ball will bounce lower with a duller, softer sound. That difference in bounce is a rough window into how the ball stores and releases energy. For a player with a slower swing, you want the ball whose energy release matches what your swing can actually trigger, and this simple drop test lets you compare any 2 balls in your closet in about 30 seconds for free before you ever spend a dime. I did this on my garage floor with every ball from my experiment lined up, dropping them 2 at a time, listening to the pitch, marking how high each one jumped against a tape line on the wall. And the balls that bounced lower and sounded duller, the softer ones, were almost exactly the balls that had performed best for my slower swing out on the course. The old bulletin was right. 100-year lineage of ball knowledge, from Haskell's rubber core to Taylor's dimples to those forgotten fitting notes, all pointing at the same simple truth that the marketing buried. Match the ball to your swing, not to your hero's swing. That's the whole secret. Not a $50 box, not a tour logo, Just your own thumb and a concrete floor, and the willingness to trust what your eyes and ears tell you. The knowledge was always there. Somebody wrote it down carefully for players like us. It got shoved aside so we'd all buy the same expensive ball off television, and now you have it back. So let me leave you with the thing I felt standing in my garage that night. Tape line on the wall, a dozen balls scattered at my feet. I felt a little cheated, honestly, that it took me so many wasted years and so many drowned balls to learn something this simple. But mostly, I felt free. Free from ever being talked into the wrong ball again. That feeling of taking back a decision somebody else had been making for you is worth more than any single round of golf. If you're the kind of person who suspects that a lot of what we're told to buy is really just designed to keep us buying, then you and I think the same way, and you belong here. Because plenty of genuinely useful knowledge like this got pushed aside. Not because it stopped working, but because it stopped selling. Now I want to hear from you. Do the drop and listen test on your own floor this weekend with the ball that's in your bag right now, and tell me which bounced higher, your ball or a soft one. And tell me your swing speed if you know it, or just tell me whether you fight a slice or a hook. Leave it in the comments below, because I read them and I want to see what you find. Don't just watch and click away. Type it out and let me know. And if you want to keep recovering the practical knowledge that got quietly taken from all of us, the stuff our fathers and grandfathers just knew and we had to pay to relearn, then join us and subscribe, because we're a group of people who refuse to be sold our own common sense. Next time I'm putting the most popular budget golf balls head-to-head against the $50 tour balls in a blind test where I don't even know which is which, and the results on the greens honestly shocked me. You won't want to miss which cheap ball beat the expensive one when I couldn't see the logo. I'll see you there. This video was just the overview. Inside my membership, the Old Ways Circle, I go deeper. The full ball-by-ball data matched to your swing speed. And you can ask me your own question with a real person answering, not a machine. You belong here with the Old Ways folks already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on your screen and you can cancel any time with one click.